We're recording. There's a recording in progress.
Recording now.
Oh, guys, there's a recording.
Whoa!
Let's be professional.
Our 1 dozen listeners.
Yeah, they realize there's a recording going on.
And
hello to our listeners. And thank you for coming back to us.
Yes.
After, we took no breaks at all, but we're back once again on this podcast. We're excited. We have a good episode. It's not a full cast, it's a tripod this evening. But before we get going, New Year's resolutions. That's a fucking scam, isn't it?
It is. I was going to say, my New Year's resolution this year is just to work on redeeming some of my Kohl's cash.
Okay. So some of the Kohl's cash that's been coming in.
All right. I'm leaving money on the table every week, and I can't.
Dude,
so I gotta
you're shorting yourself of dressing like a high school social studies teacher. Think of all the khakis you could be wearing.
Yeah, all the slip-on dress shoes. It could be anything.
It could be anything. Yeah, for sure.
Does that count? Does that count towards Sephora? Can you get your makeup for cheaper or whatever?
I don't think I can because they're fucking cucks. Kohl's, you're listening.
Yeah. Kohl's is run by absolute tyrants. Kohl's is late stage capitalism for sure.
Someone's CEO is gonna get shot. That's for sure.
Yeah, who's the CEO of Sephora?
Oh my God. Luigi, where you at, bro? Where you at?
Yeah, I got a problem. I got a name for you, my guy. And I'll pay you in Kohl's cash.
Honestly, probably some kindly person. Do not go. Please don't kill the CEO of Sephora.
Please don't.
Never suggest
We're not
that.
condoning violence. We're not condoning violence.
We would never do that. We'd probably never do that.
We most likely never. It's 60-40 for us most of the time. Yeah. Most of the time. Life is 60-40. But you just got to know which side you're on.
To drag us back onto New Year's resolutions, I have to say they're gay. Not for me. They piss me off every year.
Yeah. Fair.
Because every time I go to the gym pretty regularly, not to suck my own dick, just because I need to. I like to eat fat food. I like fatty food. I like it all the time. So I have to go to the gym.
You live a life of balance, man. You live a life of balance.
It's yin and yang.
Yin and yang. Mm-hmm. Yin and yang. I hate it how you pronounce it like that.
I know either. That's why I try to get it in as often as I can.
Fucking hate it. Anyway, the gym just fills up that first week of January.
Oh, God, you are right about that.
To the fucking brim. And I don't know who told people who are in AARP range, but you got to stay the fuck off the fly machine. There's only 2 of them. Get off the fly machine. I need it.
Yeah.
Monday, 10 a.m.
Because
off the fly machine.
Gym is a hierarchy. It's regulars.
Yeah.
Right? It's also the guys who clearly, they take their steroids and go to the gym. That's what they're doing. And then there's a hierarchy of other people. There's the like MILFs who want to be looking good because they're back on the dating scene. Mm-hmm. Yep. There's the young folks who are still trying to look attractive. And then there's kind of everyone else where it's like, my doctor told me I need to work out more. So here we are. My wife got me a gym membership, and we're in January. And they are the lowest on the total.
They're the worst.
Correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stay on your side of the gym. You can have the little weird room back there with like the steps and everything. Yeah. There's plenty of cardio equipment. I'd suggest starting there.
Burn the easy fat. Burn the easy fat first. Yeah.
If you want to lift, you're absolutely welcome. But don't be like being on your fucking cell phone and shit, and like fucking off and like lifting 10 pounds over and over and over and over again for an hour straight. Get the fuck off.
Yeah. You need to leave. You need to leave. You need to lift heavy and then get the fuck out of there.
Get out of my way.
Otherwise, you're a giant pussy. Otherwise, yeah.
You know what? And I gotta just walk up to him like, hey, look, thank you. I appreciate you coming to the gym for the first time ever in your life. But you're not gonna be here in 3 weeks. It'll be me.
Yeah, you're not gonna be here.
It's gonna be me and the regular assholes who look the same the past 10 years. You know what I mean? We're the ones.
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna be coming in here.
We work out all the time, and we're still fat idiots. You know what? Walk on, honky.
This is my fat idiot. I am the fattest idiot here, and you stay the fuck out.
Yeah, you all better get the fuck out of here. Just go back to your desk job and die your sitting death, please.
Your sitting death.
I am annoyed at the influx of people at the gym. I am happy people are chasing their dreams down, but I do know if I just take January off, have a real carb-free month or something like that, I'll be back in February. That shit will be cleaned out. It'll be good.
Oh yeah, it'll be gone. Yeah. It's a ghost town in February.
Yeah, they might gain like 1 new member, 1 new regular.
Right.
But you got to sift through a lot of hog shit, a lot of idiots.
And that one person is someone who's sincerely trying to clean up their life. They are doing everything across the board, holistically and medically, to change a lifestyle. Yeah.
And that person can just spot me. You know what I mean? Or I'll
Yeah,
spot them.
they can just spot you.
It
They
works
can
out.
spot you. Yeah.
We'll help. You're
Yeah.
you're welcome. Just
Yeah.
get out of the way. Come on.
Yeah.
Do your workout.
Are there
and go home.
any other resolution items that piss us off a little bit, or that make us there's a frustration or just perplexed by why they happen?
I would say when someone does, this happened at only one of my workplaces, so I can't complain about it too much. But every once in a while, there'll be like a New Year's resolution board at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm like, 'cause then
that-
people are talking about it.
That
And I'm
does
like, don't bring
that does
this to work.
that does really frustrate me. Where work is like, we all need to support each other in our goals, and it's like, no, shut the fuck up. That absolutely doesn't need to happen with a personal goal.
I have
of a
my
New Year's
own goal.
resolution.
Exactly. Like I'm on my
Yeah.
own shit. I don't need it to
Yeah.
be broadcast. I'm doing my own shit.
Yeah.
Right? I'm making
Yeah.
a podcast with 12 listeners for 4 fucking years. I'm not stopping. I don't need you to tell me not to stop. I'm already.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm
KY.
already.
Maybe express some like malicious compliance this year. Overshare. You know, I want to jay off less. I want to make love to my wife more.
I want to leer at less women at the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to feel.
Exactly.
I want to feel the urge of predation less.
less. How do I feel it less? And just stare at all of my female coworkers. How do I feel it less? How do I feel it less?
Yeah.
Meet my eyes. Meet my eyes. Meet my eyes. How do I feel it less?
Yeah. So we're tired of the New Year's resolutions, guys. Get rid of them. Just be yourselves. Fucking be yourselves. Join
You
the
can
new
set
year. Be
goals
yourselves.
Anytime. And
We're
you could
happy
just
with you. Yeah.
pursue
Set
'em.
goals whenever and pursue them.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a New Year thing.
You can get wacky.
I'm
with
also.
it.
You know what? You know what I'm annoyed with? Dry January. Get fucked. What a stupid.
That's a
come on.
thing?
That's a thing. Dry January. Yeah.
Ugh, it's like no nut November. What am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
What am
I'm
I
so
doing?
important I can't
Yeah.
have a drink or jerk off. Fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
November's
No,
like a
I'm
weird.
gonna-
Why would I not? What's keeping me from doing it then?
Interesting how we all immediately went to No Nut November instead of talking about Dry January. But yeah, definitely.
Well, one is a compulsion for me, and one is not, and you guess which one it is.
Yeah, and we know that now. We know that. Well, compulsion. I'd imagine for a lot of men. Let's be fair.
God,
Let's be fair.
help me.
Yeah,
Oof,
yeah, you're-
fuck all that.
You're a standard jacker, so you can pretty much do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Runs up
I
the
can't,
risk.
you know what,
Lumberjacker.
I can't do it in my
He's a
car.
true That's true.
Safe.
You can't.
You're not standing. You're not standing.
You're
I
not
can't do
standing.
it in the car. Other than that, almost anywhere.
And you know what? And as a responsible adult, you've always driven a coupe or some kind of smaller vehicle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. It is
Yeah.
responsible.
You know, if you buy a
It is,
van
it
one
is.
day with one of those bubble windows, I'll call into question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should look the fuck out.
You know, when his head is out of the bubble, like he's in the Pope mobile and he's just jerking it. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, if I ever get a car that can get out of the sunroof but my waist is beneath, you know what I'm doing. You see torso out, you know what I'm doing.
And KY's
I'll
parked
go
in front of my
park outside
house
of-
a lot.
Just staring in the windows. My New Year's resolution was to visit my friends more.
Oh my god! I wish there was a
Check it
visual
up in your
element for
driveway. Oh god. Well,
Well,
do
here
have a
we are.
story.
We do have a story. We're going to jump right into this story. We're going to keep it to a nice shorty this evening. We got some folks. We're recording, full disclosure, on a Sunday. Some of us got to get to work in the morning. Others are just going to jerk off when they wake up and smoke more pot. But that's all beautiful. Either way of that spectrum. We have a fun one this evening, but I am joined again by a tripod. Yours truly, Big Cat, is hosting this evening. I have a fun one that I think some of us are going to get really into. We're going to try to keep it as surface as possible just because this is truly a lesser-known people, but it's based on a literary reference, and we have some folks on the podcast who really enjoy literature, and it's one of our favorites who is the author.
And one person who does not read and maybe cannot read. Just saying. So
It's taken you 6 years to get through a book that you've done 5 segments on. Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait for this last segment to come out. It's gonna blow your fucking foreskin off.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. He's acting like he created the English fucking language right now, guys. Listen to this shit.
I'm an artist. You're jealous.
And with that, KY, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I am always truly intimidated by when there's like an actual literary component of like a popular reference that I should have read and never did. And this is gonna be one of those nights.
Okay, well, this has never been required reading this book. He is a beloved author, and we are talking about a character this evening. So, and it's just for the record, so everyone knows, KY is extremely well read.
I can read.
You read a lot of weird things, though. Can I bring that up real quick? Like you're
All right, I think that's a fair comment.
Your Don Omond reading list. That's weird. One of the things that really got your goad that started our whole podcast was a note.
From a South African man, which I think we can confirm is South African, right?
I think we can.
Just so everyone knows, the very first episode of this podcast was KY reading a note, a personal letter that he found stuffed in a book that he got from where? Where'd you get it from?
Goodwill.
It was Goodwill.
Yeah.
And if you're unfamiliar, please check out our back catalog, guys. We've been doing this a long time, and we would love for more folks to start listening to some of the items. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. That's where you can find us. And it was called The Note. It was a beautiful episode. And you've read things about the Oneida sex cult. Like the things that you read that you deep dive on, like that get your goad, are well written. I'm sure, expertly, smartly, if you will. They're just weird. So nice. They're just weird. But that is also testament to everyone on this podcast. Loves to pursue their interests. So when we're interested in something, we go down the deep rabbit hole on reading. And that's really kind of how this that's the foundation of this podcast, quite frankly, I feel.
Yeah, it's a wide variety of things based on our interests for relatively little known people.
Whatever rabbit hole we go down. So KY is joining us. We are also joined by J Money, who's looking sexy this evening. His tag on Zoom is "Punch my butthole clean off" this evening. So hopefully this episode knocks your butthole clear off, guys.
That's what I'm talking about, man. That's the first time that anyone who has read my tag out loud, it has literally been like that for maybe a month.
Oh, then there we go. Yeah.
So I appreciate the shout, man. I appreciate the shout. It's a long-running joke. Finally, someone got it.
Someone pays off.
I think it's back when my butthole was hurting real bad. Back when I had some hurt.
Oh, yeah. We had butthole issues.
Yes, and it was actually not anal sex related. Shockingly,
surprising.
It was actually just called butthole sickness, if I'm not mistaken. That's what the doctor deemed it.
A little bit.
I think it's like it was like a symptom of scurvy, whatever was like going on. Maybe
this is mostly Civil War medicine, is what we practice here on this podcast.
Yes. What we practice.
It's what we live and practice.
Got me that guy with the practice.
And with that, we are excited about this evening's topic. This evening's topic showed up on a list of, and because we're towards the end of the year, we're coming up to the new year. That's why we're having a beautiful intro about New Year's resolutions, and we're talking about lists. We always see lists come up, and this one appeared on a list of greatest literary villains. And the character in suspect on this list was one of our favorite authors, Mr. Cormac McCarthy. In his, and I'm going to need help with this, so please check me on this 1985 novel, Blood Meridian.
Wow.
And the antagonist in play, the villain in play, was Judge Holden.
Judge Holden. So, if I may,
yes,
I read Blood Meridian sometime within the past decade. I was on this like big Cormac McCarthy kick where I was pretty much reading anything that I get my hands on. I read his whole All the Pretty Horses. That trilogy.
Okay, so you did the Border trilogy, yeah.
The Border trilogy. Thank you. I could not think of the name of it. I read Blood Meridian. I read a couple of plays that he had written. I read like a dialogue between two people on a train station.
Some of these novels actually started in different forms. Like No Country for Old Men started out as a screenplay. He wanted to do a screenplay, and then ultimately went to a novel.
I read No Country for Old Men, which I really the movie was brilliant. So the screenplay probably held up.
I think they go synonymous with one another. They were so intertwined,
for sure. Yeah, but Blood Meridian lives up to its name. It is one of the bloodiest novels that I've ever read, and the judge is an absolutely despicable
darkest novel. And you said you had read this within the last 10 years because you were on that Cormac kick.
Oh yeah, right? I definitely read that within that Cormac time frame. And McCarthy, he just writes. He writes really. He writes in a very simplistic way, but in a way that's very kind of dark and deep, heinous, like on his face, heinous.
Absolutely.
Like
he plays on some of the darkest tones of humanity
Right.
in most of his novels, at least
Right.
from
The Road.
my reading.
The Road is an example of that, where
Yes.
If you could think about terrible things that are going to happen at the end of the world, like those are the things that are happening.
Those are the things. You're showing your child how they should take their own life if need be. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just horrendous things to think about. Cormac McCarthy is truly as bleak as it gets. I was just telling Justin, I think I read this. I read Blood Meridian in a class where I also read Heart of Darkness, and I also read The Stranger by Camus. And that was a class titled "Let's Make Students Nihilists," if I'm not mistaken. It was
Ryan got A plus.
I bet you
A plus in that one, dude. I aced. That's the only course I've ever aced in my fucking life. Yeah. But we are talking about this character, and because you guys are familiar with the character in the novel, and certainly what he does, it's going to be fun to kind of dive into the actual historical perspective that this character was based off, which I did not necessarily realize when I read it. This is largely based on historical premise coming out of the Mexican-American War, and Judge Holden was based off of a real-life character. So I guess I'll jump in right now, and guys, fill in the blanks. Judge Holden in the novel is described as a larger-than-life character. He's massive. He is hairless. He is, by all perspectives, an albino. Yes, yeah. By all perspectives, just unbearably white.
I believe he's an albino, and he suffers from alopecia.
Yes. Yeah. Those are the two items. And while those are not necessarily stated, it is stated in the loose context of how he's described.
Right, exactly. Like you just you have to puzzle it together, as all things that McCormac writes.
McCarthy does, yeah, because you are living with these characters in real time. In the novel, you're following a character who is simply referred to as the Kid, who we meet at the age of 14, who meets actually Judge Holden, if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 16. He is later on referred to as the Man in the ending of the novel, as at that point he's probably in his 40s. Judge Holden is described as the worst of basically all evil. What can we say about Judge Holden?
Well, Judge Holden was masochistic. He was extremely charming and intelligent.
Which a good devil always is.
The devil is. Yeah, the devil is. And I think even he is described as a devil quite a bit. He's
on a number of occasions. So and in true Cormac fashion, you're kind of hit over the head sometimes with what he wants you to see.
Oh yeah,
and that's the surface layer, because he's prepping you for something that's going to come up later that goes much deeper. I.e., really, if you think about the end dialogue, and I won't touch on that at all, but certainly it appears in the end dialogue.
Did you want me to spoil that right now with the?
No, you don't. You do say whatever you need to say, whatever you want to say of just our itemization of
okay.
Of
it was published in 1985, so if people haven't read it,
if you haven't read it, you're kind of a fucking idiot.
Well,
just pick up a book,
I
dude.
read it. I read it once a week. That's how much
go
I know about
go to a fucking library.
Look,
go to a fucking library.
You
could go to KY's library, where he's on the board of that fucking library, guys. Come on.
Whoa, I don't know anything about that.
Well, just to drive us away from that, and to put us back on topic, to list out the bad things about the judge, he's also described as a pretty prolific pedophile in the
massive pedophile, yeah. And with that, obviously, tying in with masochistic, he can kill indiscriminately. There's nothing wrong with killing in his eyes, especially and certainly. With the number of people he runs into and the different individuals he has greetings with, we'll leave it at that. So he is probably, again, there's a reason he was voted one of the most evil characters in literature. So who was Judge Holden in reality? So they got a few things right in the novel. Not that, and again, Cormac McCarthy was not doing a biographical basis on this individual.
No.
This was a character in a fictional setting, and he was loosely basing it off of that.
Just an inspiration.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Blood Meridian's really just kind of like an examination of kind of all of the worst shit that really did. These things really did happen in the West during that time frame. People underscore how violent and awful the frontier was.
Oh my God! And it's true to McCarthy. It's a true examination of the human condition and how dark we can be.
100%. And that really is what that novel is. So, the judge, I'm sure, probably isn't real to an absolute T. But I am curious to figure out who the fuck this madman is actually based on. Because McCormick, the way he describes things, like even to your core as he's describing them, you're like, oh fuck, this shit. I feel like this really did happen. The way he describes these raiding parties lopping around in like a weird alien form, dressed in like brides' gowns and wedding towers.
And then losing a reason to kill, really. I mean, part way through that novel, we're just killing because this is what we know how to do. Right. And we're no longer associated with anything, which is really, really dark. But to that point, who was Judge Holden originally? And as you guys may be aware, obviously a lot of this takes place in the context of the Mexican-American War, which is in the 1840s. Judge Holden himself was associated with the Glanton Gang, which is referenced in the novel. He's an associate of John Joel Glanton as a professional scalp hunter, so he was pretty sadistic in that nature. In Mexico and the American Southwest. Those would have been a lot of the southern states, New Mexico, Arizona, that region. Certainly that take place in the book as well. The only source for us understanding who Holden really was in, and J Money, I'm going to be really interested if you've taken this deep hole before, but Samuel Chamberlain, who was part of the Glanton Gang, wrote My Confession, Recollection of a Rogue, and that was an autobiographical account of Chamberlain's life as a soldier during the Mexican-American War. Did you ever dive into that?
No, I did not.
Okay, so this is the most self-serving autobiographical item I think I've probably ran into.
Oh, really?
I didn't want to jump on it too quickly, but every single time some asshole from history decides he's the baddest man on the planet, one of these things comes out, and it's an absolute fucking jerk off session. That's all it is.
And I just want to point this out as white guys on the frontier who were killing indiscriminately a lot of the time. If they put out something, it was to their benefit of what that legacy of what that was going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. It was their reputation. It was I don't know if they were like really monetizing it back in the day, but they had a lot of in the Old West. They had I don't remember what they used to call them, but short stories, like short westerns.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if
something like that.
Yeah, they're called like flippers or some bullshit like that. But
penny saver, yeah.
And they were, maybe he was trying to build a name there or something like that. But it was all self-serving. It was so self-serving back in those times. But some of it could have been true, and I'm sure he was a bad fucking person. But to glamorize it is awful.
Chamberlain himself was a bad dude. He makes it look like everyone else was horrendous. He was a good person. He was doing everything he could. Let's see. Chamberlain had traveled with him briefly over the war. To the distinction, how is now? Let's, if we can, really quickly. Judge Holden is described as in a physical stature. How is he described in the novel? J Money. He was described as massive,
very large. Yeah, he's a large person.
Basically, the size of a house. Right. He's just short of 7 foot. Huge. He's in a slicker. He has a giant cap on, and when you first see him, he has a cigar in his mouth as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, the waft and the smell of his cigar is described as alluring, and then he's this awful-looking creature.
Yeah, awful-looking, just horrendous-looking creature who shows up to essentially, in that first opening scene, get a priest killed by having the entire crowd turn on him. Interesting, or pastor, I'm sorry. But he is described as fleshy frame, so big boy. Dull, tallow colored face, destitute of hair and all expression. He was a man of a gigantic size. So one thing that Cormac got right was he made the stature correct of this individual.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
I thought for sure that was an embellishment.
No, it's was so maybe not 7 foot, but he was definitely a large guy.
Okay.
Right.
Is
it Chamberlain is the real guy? Is that his name? What's his name again?
Well, so Chamberlain is the guy writing about Judge Holden. Judge Holden.
Here comes
Holden
Here comes
is
Snopes. You're gonna get fucking fact checked right now.
No. I'm trying to figure. So Judge Holden was a real person.
Right.
Yeah, Judge Holden was an
they have
actual real person who was associated with this gang, and Chamberlain was with the gang as well.
And sorry, I got lost in the sauce.
Fine.
I thought that Chamberlain was the guy, but Holden was a real person. And his name was used in the book as it was in real life. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and described basically the same in physical presence, and then certainly was also a scalper because he was part of the Glenton gang.
Was he like an albino, like with alopecia?
Yeah.
Like in real
was
life?
described as enormously pale.
Oh wow.
Maybe not albino. Right. So that might be the embellishment there, because I think it had to have been in J Money. You're a writer, KY. You've done a lot of writing, but certainly taking certain descriptions and then exaggerating those a bit.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was a little bit of that.
And McCarthy has a way of describing something in a way that leaves it very open for your mind to fill in the gaps.
Yep. Right. Exactly. And I think that's a lot of what he was doing here. And certainly when he's describing in the novel, that's how it goes. You're left with a lot of devices of how you're going to interpret this individual. So we do know, again, he was the part of the Glanton gang. He was a scalp hunter, so we know what that looks like. That was individuals after they'd kill either Mexican soldiers or Native Americans, was scalping. So he did those horrific acts. He was a massive person. He was with the Glanton gang. So a lot of these things now are ringing true. We're getting a lot of boxes are checked between the novel and the reality of the person here, right?
Which is wild.
There's some discrepancy.
I didn't think the physical appearance of this guy, which is so shocking, I didn't think would actually come from real life. I thought that would definitely be the embellishment. I thought maybe his personality and his personalia would be a little bit more to real life.
Yes. And also, what are the odds when you're in the frontier that you're going to see a giant ass albino person? Like that had to have looked like a fucking alien out there, right?
Oh, dude,
these other people. It's just regular hairy looking European white people, Mexicans, Native Americans. Those are the groups you're dealing with. Where does the albino fit in here? Where did he drop off from the spaceship? Right,
dude. I would be shocked. I'm open mouth, fucking shocked to the death if I saw a fucking
you would see this guy. You would see this guy in
a WWE wrestling albino walking through the Southwest.
Yeah, the Big Show. The Big Show is a cowboy.
Yes,
exactly. And you see this guy just. First of all, how does this guy mount a horse? That's my first item.
Secondly, that horse is like, fuck.
Oh yeah, fuck! I got this guy. Jesus, we're not getting. If we go cross state borders, dude, I'm dead. So you need another horse.
If he asked me to run, he's gonna shoot me in the back of the head.
He's gonna shoot me in the
back. I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna
walk.
Well,
and that is very true to the character, because he would pull a gun on basically everything and shoot anything.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's a great point,
KY. But once that horse got to anywhere a new horse would be that was fresher, it would be dead. That's the way this guy
would just shoot.
Operate.
You shoot. It was turn and burn, dispose, the ultimate burner here. But also seeing this man on a horse coming down through just an open valley, perhaps, that would be an entire sight in its own, right?
Yeah.
Massive individual.
Oh, yeah.
So we have that really only, as previously stated, a lot of the only description we have is actually from My Confession by Samuel Chamberlain, which Cormac McCarthy was fascinated with. He read it when he was a young man because he was really, really, as most of his literature would show, was fascinated with the Southwest during that time period and the expansion of the United States, particularly that kind of manifest destiny period. Yeah. He's not described as charming or cunning as Judge Holden is in the actual book Blood Meridian. And he holds kind of various capacities within the regiment that he's with, or certainly with the Glanton gang, which was kind of a paramilitary group working adjacent to the United States military at the time, with very kind of loose access of what they could and couldn't do. He, for the most part, in the novel, in the description itself, Chamberlain actually hates him. He thinks he's kind of a jerk the whole time, which runs true to character. Yeah. And other items, so the more sadistic elements of Judge Holden in the book. So someone who is a J Money's we're not spoiling this for anyone. This came out in 1985, so everyone could shut the fuck up. But the element of being a pedophile. He was not actually a pedophile. He didn't just strut around naked after killing a child and raping that child or whatever. So a lot of those elements weren't necessarily there.
Right.
Those were things that were embellished in Cormac McCarthy's novel. But again, this person, Judge Holden, and I'll leave it at this, very real, was with the Glanton gang, was a massive individual. Was his influence in his ability of being the absolute boss of the gang always there? No. He held various levels within the Glanton gang and was also not as sadistic. So he might not have been the worst. He might not have been the devil, but he was still obviously a scalp hunter.
Right.
In a paramilitary regiment at that time. So still a bad dude, but not what was described in Blood Meridian. Obviously, it's one of the greatest characters ever written, in my opinion. Certainly if it makes this list of greatest villains of all time, I think that's telling in its own right.
I mean, I mean, if Judge Glanton or the judge, I mean, how many does McCarthy really get? Because in my opinion, between Anton Sugar and the judge, those are the two scariest motherfuckers alive.
Dude. Alive. I don't know any context about Anton Sugar, but I do know Judge Holden was a real character with a scalp gang, just moving through the desert Southwest along the border, just scalping Mexicans, indigenous people, whoever he could fucking kill. So he was a fucking bad dude. Yeah. Wasn't necessarily the head of the Glanton gang, but was in the ranks, man.
I mean, if he was bad enough to be that sort of inspiration for someone like Cormac McCarthy, like that's you got to be a pretty badass dude to start with. You got to have pretty good bones for him to build off of. Right?
Oh yeah, I think that's where. So I mean, you guys are writers. To write a really good villain, you'd want to all fiction comes from a nonfiction somewhere, right?
Right.
We always say that. So I think that was kind of, as he's reading this, he's like, oh, this would be a very interesting character to utilize. And then just kind of became the vehicle for the darkness of humanity in this book. But that is what I got. Judge Holden, very real character.
Very real person. Crazy. I love good nonfiction. This is why I haven't read it, because it's fiction. It's fake to me.
Yeah.
I would rather read.
It's also not on Reddit as well. I think that's a bigger item. Yeah.
Give me like an Aaron Rodgers book. Give me like a some sort of sporty, idiot piece of shit. I'm not trying to
Please, because we love sports documentaries, and I was just watching Enigma by Aaron Rodgers. His fucking documentary.
Yikes.
What an absolute loser. Yes.
Yeah.
But God, I couldn't turn away. I couldn't turn away from that fucking documentary.
Dude, that's what KY wants to read someone he can make fun of. If he can just in his head know that he's intellectually superior to the guy that wrote this book, that's what KY wants to read.
Yeah. Just in your minds, as I'm reading that bok, I'm standing up masturbating, knowing that I can make fun of this guy at some time. That's what I'm
Aaron Rodgers, you fucking idiot! Oh, whoa.
As KY is coming, he's like, "You're a fucking idiot!"
It's really, really confusing for my wife, because I do it in the same room she sleeps in. So Yeah. She's like, he's an active reader. He likes to play out weird things when he does it. So
again, KY is very well read, reads very frequently. But yeah, I just thought that was fascinating. The realities versus the actual character. A lot of that aligns, man. There are so many boxes that are checked between the two.
I mean, Cormac McCarthy writes, I would say, the storylines that he's following aren't the truth, but what happens to these characters as they experience this real environment is the truth. Like the things that you would expect to happen to someone when they're going down this road, or maybe in Blood Meridian's case, the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
All of the time through the whole novel.
And that's such a great point. Is he probably wasn't able to convey this to its fully without some actual basis in reality.
Right.
Right.
He wouldn't have been able to write such a good villain if there wasn't that element.
That truth behind it. That's why, the Border trilogy is a good expose on the dying Western age. That's what it is. It's dying. The border has gone up. And then
this reality is dying. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, he goes back to that well on the dying border and the changing dynamics with No Country for Old Men.
Exactly.
Right?
Which is No Country for Old Men is a new border. The border the Border trilogy was the old border dying with the old cowboy, the spaghetti westerns, all those old novels.
Yeah. And so if you hadn't guessed already, this is kind of this episode was kind of a romance to one of our favorite authors in Cormac McCarthy.
Hail to thee.
We wanted to have him. Yeah. We wanted to have him on the podcast.
I think
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. I ruined your joke. Go ahead.
There was no joke there. There was no joke. I was gonna say we wanted to have Cormac on before he died, but here we are.
Because then when did he die? Like 2002 or something?
He died like 2 years ago.
Did he really?
We were doing this fucking thing, dude. Oprah got him. We didn't get him. I don't know what that's about.
God damn it, Oprah got him.
Dude.
No, I was gonna say I feel like I don't want to correct you guys because I'm a really big fan myself, but I actually think his name is Cormoran McCarthy. He just goes by Cormac. His mom was a big fan of the Birds, so if you could just educate yourselves.
Thank you for bringing that up with us. Yeah, man, for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now is the author known as Cormac McCarthy, or is it Cormac McCarthy would sit on every fucking novel he's ever written?
And I actually think it was a misprint initially, and they were just
they just went with it. They just went with it. Yeah.
This is Kyle's contribution for not actually reading these novels.
This is all I have. This is all I have. Don't take it away from me.
I'm gonna run back and continue to defend KY. He is enormously well read, and we are privileged to have him on this episode. All of his contributions are enormous. This is just one item he has not read, and there's two of the three of us have read this novel. So
to our listeners who have not read the book, I still very much enjoyed learning about this. So I'm here to represent us who have not read the book yet still enjoy the material. This is good stuff.
And if certainly, guys, if you're interested, please read Blood Meridian. Please read Confession by Samuel Chamberlain as well for that actual description of who this individual was. There's plenty of great YouTube commentary on this individual as a villain in the novel itself. There's so many philosophical rabbit holes to go down, as with any Cormac McCarthy novel. With that, guys, let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. We'd love to have a literary conversation, particularly if you want to talk about your favorite villains from novels or any of your favorite aspects from novels, guys. We'd love to have a conversation with you. You can find us on Patreon. Certainly find us on all the socials, guys. We're definitely
all the socials. Hey, for real, guys, if you come to our Patreon and you can hang out with us for free, you'll get early content if you hang out with us for free. Totally cool. If you are a paid Patreon, you come talk to us live all the time.
Drive content. You could drive content.
Drive content.
You can drive content. We can talk about something you want us to talk about.
Get behind the wheel.
There's there's a lot of content up there we're too scared to release publicly. There's a song we've released. There's some stuff, some memes maybe I dropped, and some really nice feet pics if you're into it.
And none of the stuff that we're afraid to release is even remotely related to as bad as Judge Holden. But it's just us. It's boys being boys.
Boys being boys.
We'll leave it at that. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening. Please reach out to us on the socials. We'd love to hear from you. Again,